Exodus 14. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they turn and encamp before Pihahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal-zephon, before it shall encamp by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, They are entangled in the land, and wilderness hath shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he shall follow after them, and I will be honored upon Pharaoh and upon all his host, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. And they did so. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people, and they said, Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us? And he made ready his chariot and took his people with him. And he took 600 chosen chariots, and all the chariots of Egypt, and captains over every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children of Israel, and the children of Israel went out with an high hand. But the Egyptians pursued after them, and all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, and his horsemen, and his army, and overtook them encamping by the sea, beside Pihahiroth and Baal-zephon. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. And they said unto Moses, Because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, Let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. And Moses said unto the people, Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will shew to you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And the Lord said unto Moses, Wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak until the children of Israel, that they go forward. But lift thou up thy rod, and stretch out thine hand over the sea, and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I, behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. And I will get me honor upon Pharaoh, and upon all his host, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed, and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud went from before their face, and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and it was a cloud of darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that one came not near the other all night. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued, and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to pass that in the morning watch the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drave them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the sea, that the waters may come up again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared. And the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the host of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. But the children of Israel walked upon dry ground in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw the great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians, and the people feared the Lord, and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. This chapter has the scene that is the sort of climax power scene out of the Ten Commandments moving, the parting of the Red Sea. Pharaoh and his, it says Pharaoh and his people are upset that the Hebrews have gone. Why did we let them go? Well, you let them go because your firstborn died. And because if you didn't let them go, worse was going to happen in all probability. What does it take to get the message through? So he decides he's going to take his army and go capture them back when he hears that they are stuck someplace where there's the sea on one side, mountains on the other, and they're stuck. He gets his chariot, 600 chosen chariots. We don't know what the chosen is specifically. It could have been heavy. It could have been special ones that had knives on the axles, and could have been bigger ones, whatever. Could have been ones with the generals or the commanders of the royal guard or something. Just all we know is they were chosen chariots. These would have been special in some way, shape, or form. Would have been the most terrible, the best quality, something. And and all the rest of the chariots and previous pharaohs were related as having as many as 50,000 chariots. The Hebrews would have had no weapons at all because there were no weapons anybody had other than the army in Egypt. Pharaoh had the biggest army on the face of the earth in those days. And so all of a sudden this huge army shows up and the people are afraid. I can understand that. But these people were whiners from way back. The reason they didn't go up the straight way was because they needed to go through a nation building process. And this was part of it. Heavenly Father knew that. So one of the things that happened was this experience. They had to see that God would fight their battles for them. And one of the things that happened was the people went to Moses and said, "What? There weren't enough graves in Egypt? You know, you brought us out here in the wilderness to die. There's Pharaoh's army. They're going to kill us all." And Moses goes to Heavenly Father sort of looking for something to happen. And God says something to him that I think is just so incredibly wonderful and is a great learning experience for Moses. He says, "Why are you talking to me? I gave you the power. You're the leader here. You're the one that can decide what to do. Why don't you put forth the rod? Divide the sea asunder and your people can go through on dry land." Moses does it. And lo and behold, the way opens up. The cloud and the pillar of fire that were before them and behind them in the day basically go and block it so that the Egyptians can't come. They are perhaps symbolic of baptism by water and baptism by fire. Don't want to stretch some of these things too far, but there's that possibility. And the Hebrews go through on dry land with huge walls of water on one side and the other. We have no idea where this happened. It really doesn't make any difference. The point is that it did happen. And I know there are lots of people who want to know where. I don't care where. I don't need to know where. All I need to know is that it happened. There's the story, and the Hebrews have a land of their own. Okay, I got the message. God will fight for you. And so then Pharaoh sends down his chariots and cavalry and whatever to go get them. And after all the Hebrews are on the other side and safe, Moses lets the water close, and Pharaoh's army is destroyed. One warrior on the side of the Hebrews, God. However many warriors there were on the side of the Pharaoh, when it's all over, God's left standing and all the Egyptian warriors are dead. You never want to battle with God if you can avoid it. And you can always avoid it. So the people started to learn a valuable lesson. They were away from Egypt. They were out from under Pharaoh. They had a leader, and the leader was between them and God for their instruction. And from here on out, they were going to go through a nation-building process, and it was going to take a long time because they were really slow to learn. And the slower we are to learn, the longer it takes for the Lord to be able to bless us too. The faster we learn, the faster the blessings come.